Yet another sequel 20 plus years later. And we all know how well that goes. Ridley Scott goes back to Rome with the hopes of recapturing the essence of the first epic with Russell Crowe. Does it live up to it though? We get a neat little catch up of the previous film with some cool paint style married with the astonishing score, helping it feel like a true continuation. My biggest concern from the trailer is that it was basically just going to be a carbon copy of the first film, which in many ways it is, in the sense that it follows the same story beats. He is a leader of an army, a loved one gets killed, he becomes a slave to a gladiator to get revenge. But I do feel to say that it's an exact copy is a disservice to everything in between. Pedro Pascal had some serious boots to fill following Russell Crowe as the almost myth that is Maximus. However though, it is an inevitable comparison that I do think though he holds his own and pulls off the role rather well. I do wish though the trailer didn't reveal he has a tie to Maximus, just in case you haven't seen it. One big factor that allows this movie to stand on its own 2 feet from its predecessor is Pedro Pascal's character, Marcus Acacius. He is in the sights of Hanno or Lucius, but it's quite interesting that he does not want to be this person conquering and killing. And you can totally see Maximus having to play this role, and in many ways, he did. I thought it was a cool little twist on who the villain really is, and of course being the 2 Emperor kids, who are just as much as weasels as you probably were expecting. Denzel as Macrinus is basically Proximal, but with cooler outfits. It is always great to see Denzel on the screen though, and from the sounds of it, it may be all coming to a bit of an end, so may as well enjoy it while we can. And of course just chewing that scenery every opportunity he gets. As well as Denzel's outfits, the costumes are a sight to behold in their own right, and for all there is a lot of CGI, the locations and the sets are incredibly beautiful. It's not all golden though. Everything kinda just rushes by, and everything just kinda falls into place all conveniently. With people's choices and loyalties just switching on a dime, seemingly out of nowhere. And much like with Maximus, how he becomes like the leader of these slaves turned gladiators, it's the same situation with Lucius, but it just feels very strange that these people just randomly put their lives in the hands of this guy. There's no bond and trust built from what we see, really. And of course he's got to have it, but it's such obvious plot armour. In the undeniably great fights in the Colosseum, the arrows and swords just seem to zigzag this guy. And he's so clearly out in the open, like steering the boat. There's no one covering him. And these archers just seem to have no interest in him at all. And to be fair, much like a lot of films that come out now, it's just all very clean looking and just digital. It has no real identity apart from a well-known name. I know it feels like I'm kind of hopping on it here now, but Lucius, he speaks a little bit weird. It's not tethering that line like Maximus did, like very stoic and just much to the point. It's like, ha 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 ha, I will not be your servant in this life or the next. It's like he's got to think of the next word before the sentence ends. I kind of bought into it at the start, but really, I was just like, what beer have you been drinking? I mean, surely someone would have pulled you aside, Pedro, and says you can't be drinking on the job. That all said, it's a solid yet safe sequel that I do feel is good enough to go out and see it in the cinema on the big screen. Because personally, I don't know if this is really going to be worthwhile watching on the smaller TV that you probably have at home. Gladiator 2 gets a first 6.5 out of 10. Just not good enough to get up to a 7. Not as bad to be just a 6. Landing right in the middle. I know many were excited about it, but does it live up to the expectation? Make sure if you've seen it or are you going to see it, let me know down in the comments your thoughts. Join me still for recommendations just here for yourself, and I will see you in this life or the next.